I'm Kevin Casey. I'm a professional mixed martial arts fighter. And right now what I'm about to do is issue a warning out to all other competitors.
I don't want overs. I just expect them to happen.
Fatty's gonna fatty is real.
Oh, give me fucking truth, baby! Come on! Let's go!
How have I been successful in life?
Welcome to this week's edition of the MMA Analysis Podcast. I am your host, Lance Bissell. We got a shitty card, but we got the best man in the world on it. So I guess gives and takes in this world. You, Sean, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Yeah, I mean, this is a typical UFC pay-per-view that occurs in Canada. We get a women headliner and a bunch of shitty Canadians. And maybe one good fight, and obviously it's a great fight because of who's in it. But that's about as good as you can get when you get a pay-per-view up here. It feels like we had better.
It's getting close.
We had some better like Fox cards or ESPN cards. Like when it's pay-per-view, it's usually bad.
It's getting closer and closer, boys.
Bellator?
That's so Bellator. Yeah, that's the analysis swag, baby.
That is OG. What year was that from? Are we talking like 2014?
But it's when I first started listening to the podcast. I think Andrew was still on it and shit. Yeah,
that's gotta be like 2013.
I mean, I've been on the podcast for like 6 or 7 years now. Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I've been on it for a good bit. A little bit. So I've been on it so long that like Ivan was like 8 years old when we first did it, and it was basically just me talking to Ivan. Was a groomsman in my brother's wedding.
Nice.
A month ago. Nice. So pretty funny. But yeah, this card sucks. I mean, I understand like a fight night card. If you go to like somewhere in Canada, like it's gonna sell out no matter what, right? Like I get it. Like if this was a fight night card, it'd sell out in 5 minutes. Whatever. Who cares what the card looks like? And same thing with the ESPN Plus cards or Apex cards, whatever.
Any of them. Any of the cards that are outside of the Apex now sell out there because people are clamoring to get to a card.
Yeah,
still doesn't mean they don't fucking suck, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure this sold out. But the thing that makes no sense about this is it's pay-per-view. So they're going to lose lots of money by how just disgusting this card is. Like, there's no way.
Tons of money because of ESPN.
It don't matter. It don't matter.
The number of pay-per-views definitely matters.
It matters to ESPN. It damn sure don't matter to the UFC.
Oh, the UFC.
A flat rate.
I would think that the UFC gets some sort of percentage off of that too.
Most. Yeah. I would assume almost all. ESPN Plus, from what I understood of the deal, ESPN Plus, their main part of it is they got the ESPN Plus subscriptions. I'm sure they get a cut of the pay-per-view, but I'm pretty sure the actual like pay-per-view and where the UFC makes all their money is still from pay-per-views outside of the ESPN deal. Like that is still an important part of their business. ESPN doesn't.
It's
get
much
all
less now because they get a flat rate for that pay-per-view because you have to have ESPN Plus to order pay-per-views now.
But the UFC
so ESPN's giving them a flat rate, and then if it is bigger, then they do get extra money. Like if it hits certain thresholds and shit like that.
UFC gets
they need to put
on their own shit.
They can't make that many like with how it is. They can't make that many great pay-per-views. We were used to this. Every second pay-per-view was kind of pretty meh, and then every once in a while you get a really meh one.
Some of those
pay-per-views have been great though.
They have been this year, but that's why they were due for a shit one. Like
some of those antitrust docs came out and shit, and the UFC made more money last year by far than they've ever made
any other year.
And
they did not have the best year. There was no way they sold anywhere near the amount of pay-per-views when Conor was fucking.
Gone, Apex cards, no road travel and shit, and they made more money than they've ever made.
I don't know what the revenue increase was like exactly from like this year to last year, but if you look at like a gross margin perspective, like I mean, I don't even want to think about what they were running from margins once they went to the Apex, because even if they sold out an Apex and they made a bunch of money on it, their profit margins probably weren't that great. There's a reason they're not doing shows. And like I saw someone on Twitter talking about how like, oh, it's the economics of it, why they're not doing it. Well, no shit. In this, I'm sure 16-year-olds like, oh, fuck that. It's another $1 billion company doing the wrong thing. It's a for-profit company. I don't know a company in the world that would do something because, hey, it'd be cooler for people. Like, that's not how business
they're
works.
just being lazy. They're sitting on their stacks of cash. They don't need
John,
to fucking.
It's not being lazy. It's being financially smart. If they make,
you can.
If they make more money and a higher gross margin, why would they do shows? They might do one a month just to, get fans excited and do really big revenue cards. But for their business model now, I'm sure when, especially with Endeavor, public company and all that, like when you go public, that's when gross margins they're everything, right?
Yeah,
it's not just
more to answer to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, John Nash, like, has been on that shit for 6 or 7 years now, and all those docs came out and he went through that shit and was breaking it down. It was literally like they are making gross profits on every part of their business now with the UFC, from sponsors to the Apex. Like, that is money for them. Like, they're throwing you the shittiest shit card they can imagine. ESPN's paying them the same regardless. They don't have to travel. They don't have to take their crew. They don't have to do none of that shit. Yeah, like when they go to say
10-10.
like when they go to say like New Jersey, when they do like the Prudential Center or something. Yes, that's a money maker. When that sells out in that market, that's a big money maker outside of the Apex. But besides that, when they go to fucking North Carolina, when they were in fucking bumfuck Carolina a month ago, they ain't fucking making so much extra money on holding a card there.
They still make, and that's the difference between a public company and not public company. It's revenue versus gross margin. And when you're public, gross margin a lot of the time for investors, boards, things like that is more important than just revenue. It's not just how much are you making, but how much are you making, according to your margins. And that's the big change. That's a change. It's not just obviously Endeavor. That's any company. Like, I've been working in the software industry for a very, very, very long time. And it's like a flip switches when you go public, and it's like gross margins, everything, and everyone's miserable. You cut in different areas. Salespeople get fucked. And that's just how it works when you go public. And the UFC is doing the same thing. They're looking at their margins, and they get such a huge impact from this ESPN deal and doing these Apex shows. They don't give a fuck about.
It's better than ever. Their gross margins, how you say, are better than ever. They are making more money than ever. Yeah. It's wild.
I don't even want to think about what their margins are. They got to be just absolutely asinine.
I mean, when you got 10 fights and the most that dude might be making is 24 and 24, 30, and like, imagine that. Like, that is, they're making so much money. The octagon now looks like a looks like a NASCAR fire suit. Is what the octagon looks like now. Yeah,
why not? You get all that extra money, you don't lose a single viewer.
Wait, what was the reason they said fighters couldn't do it? Because it didn't look professional or something like that?
Yeah, that's all it is. They just are completely changing a bunch of things that they said they wouldn't do. Yeah. Because now they need to maximize as much money as possible.
Oh, Dana's full of shit. Oh, fuck. We don't put on circus fights. Oh, if Fury wants to fight Jones, we'll make it happen.
We paid Floyd. Yeah, all this shit that's just lies.
He paid Floyd.
That's the funniest part of that.
Yeah, it's every company. I mean, look at the golf world today, right? Everything that happened with everyone has their speculation of what happened, but
that went to another level, bro. That went to an entirely different level.
Reading everything today and just hearing different things, it seems like the obvious reason the PGA did this is they could not sustain this fight. They
were going to lose. They were going to lose, and they just. Go ahead, my bad. Go ahead, Lance.
The funny thing is, they weren't going to lose because of the product or anything. They were going to lose down the road probably because of the endless fun. So I saw something where it was they were spending, it was like a quarter. The PGA was spending $25 to $30 million in legal fees. They doubled their prize pools to try to match LIV, and the sponsors weren't wanting to pay more. So they were having to spend so much money to keep up that it just wasn't sustainable. And LIV literally has an endless, or PIF has a endless thing.
Was this the play all along from the Saudis? Was this the play all along?
Yes.
Well, Well, they said that. So 4 years ago, the Saudis called into Jay Moynihan and they wanted to invest in the tour. They wanted to send a partnership. They were going to give them billions of dollars. Yeah. They wanted to work with them. The PGA said no. So then, then there was this thing called the PGL, which the Saudis were originally in. This was like 3 years ago. And they called Jay Moynihan. They're like, we want to partner. We're creating this new golf league. He said, no, fuck you. Fast forward, then LIV comes and they get this endless fund of money. And LIV wasn't going to win because of their product. Like literally no one watched it. Their ratings were so bad they stopped reporting their TV ratings. And then they started charging $3 in YouTube subscription a day for the things. It was getting literally hundreds of viewers on this. They were going to win because they didn't care.
Yeah,
they did not.
It was just a money pit.
And eventually, throughout the ratings or whatever, the PGA Tour could have run out of money. So they were left with this option. And the funny thing was
Saudis owning golf now. The Saudis own golf.
Basically, yeah. I mean, the Saudis are investing
in golf.
Yeah, they're gonna own everything.
Soccer, WWE. It's coming for the UFC, and they're not going to say no.
I don't know. I don't know. They fucking already had the UFC if they really.
Well, they already own. They're already fucking massive owners in WWE, which just merged with the UFC. Yeah. The Saudis are going to own the UFC down the line. But book that shit. Brad's completely right.
Yeah, this is what they do. This is the sports washing that everyone talks about, and this was their end game. They were never going to be able to be successful with LIV in their mission of being in a big American sport. That was their overall mission. It wasn't to start their own golf league. He said this in a million interviews. It wasn't to be their own golf league. That might have been Greg Norman's goal, who's out by
yeah.
But
Monahan better be out very fucking soon because
So the PGA Tour is still going to be its separate controlling interest under the PIF, and they're a nonprofit, and they're
because they want to keep their 501c is why they're going to be a different entity.
And the DP World Tour as well, but the PGA they were never going to be able to match it. And the funny thing is as sad as this is, and as bad as it was that. The PGA got back into a corner where they had no choice, and this is what kind of had to happen, or they'd be fucked in 2 years. Is golf is going to be better again. We're getting all the LIV guys are coming back into the PGA Tour.
But what is this going to cost the PGA Tour though, and changes to golf? Is it because they're saying they're going to force in this team bullshit? Eventually on it. That's what some golf writers were saying today, that they're going to try to force that into it.
So what they said is they're going to look at the team aspect as an idea was basically what they said. And they could look at it, but it's never going to be on the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour, from what I'm reading some of the insiders and stuff like that, because golf is it's not like other sports. Golfers can do whatever the fuck they want. So they can say anything. They send a memo out, the PGA sends a memo out to a player, it's in public 1 minute later because there's no risk of being fired or there's no anything like that because they're independent contractors. So it's a different kind of thing. But the team aspect is something they're going to look at. But in reality, the PGA Tour starting, next year is going to be exactly the same. The next year after that, it's going to be exactly the same.
Well, I mean, eventually down the line, the Saudis are going to have complete and total ownership and control over it somewhere down the line.
Not over the advisory board or any of that. It's all
somewhere down the line they will. Bro.
They
got it this far in 2 years.
Until they bust out the bone
saw. They got it this far in 2 years. You don't think 10 years down the line they're not going to control this thing completely? They absolutely are. They absolutely are going to control it.
I don't know if they can. How the PGA is set up.
They have $650 billion. They can do whatever they want. They will have it.
And I don't think they'll want it. They're in the perfect spot now. They have Moynihan or whoever.
I agree there. This is what they want. They want a hands off
run. Yeah, they don't want to run it. So I don't think they would ever get to that point. The PGA Tour is a separate entity under PIF in this new golf league. But they control revenue interest and capital interest. So if they want to do this event is sponsored by, kill a journalist. They can do that. They do have say over that. They don't have say over the tournaments. They don't have say over the game. They don't have say over who is playing in the tournaments, who qualifies for the tournaments. And I don't think they want to. They just want their name out there and be sponsored and do different things.
The guy that is in charge of the fund that is on the board owns Newcastle United, the football club. Mm-hmm. This guy, this dude is going to want control over the PGA eventually. And it's going to be hard to hold him off. I'm telling you, he runs everything. He literally runs a bank. He runs the oil companies. He runs the fucking Newcastle. Eventually he's going to want his hands on this thing completely. Him, not the crown prince and the royal family. This guy's a businessman.
The problem is with something like this, if it got to that point where they were running every single little thing and it was run by Saudis and they were doing that, Tiger Woods will create his own golf tour. And they're all independent contractors. And
that might be a possibility anyway, because like if you're Tiger or Rory or even Justin Thomas and them that literally turned down Tiger turned down $800 million on principle. Yeah. Tiger's a billionaire anyway, but still. Yeah. Today, what is he thinking? Like, fuck the PGA. Like, imagine him and Rory, they're probably like, we got to do our own thing, bro.
Tiger did say, it was like a month or two ago, and someone asked him about talking together, right? Like, are you guys going to talk? And he said, we can only talk if you drop litigation and Greg Norman gets fired. Greg Norman got fired and they dropped litigation.
Well, so litigation got dropped. Litigation got dropped because of what you began with, that the Saudis have $650 billion and the PGA was never going to be able to win that.
I'm just glad all these Twitter bots and everything don't have to act like LIV is good anymore, which I think is good, because LIV is done in November. Like, they're done. That league is dead. LIV didn't work. It was awful. LIV wasn't the end game. This was the end game. They just got there quicker.
I do find it funny that all of the LIV ball gobblers today are like, see, they won. They won they won in a certain aspect. They didn't win they didn't win on a golf aspect. No. They won on a money aspect, but not a golf aspect, because nobody gave a fuck about LIV. Literally, there was 20 guys that bet on LIV that gave a fuck about LIV. Yeah. That's it.
They lost billions on LIV, but it was a good gamble because now they're in a spot where they have a controlling interest of a major growing American sport.
The Saudis are gonna buy. They're going to get into an NFL or ML or one of the major sports here very soon, and it's going to start turning really bad. Those dudes are going to own them. In China are going to own the fucking world, like straight up. They're going to own the world.
China
they are.
Enough about that sort of stuff.
What do you say?
China doesn't care enough about that sort of stuff.
No, I mean other aspects of the world.
China doesn't hide who they are. Saudis try to hide who they are so they can get more of the corporate sponsorships and everything to kind of cut with the
because MBS wants to be looked at as like some new age fucking royal family wives chopping up dudes and putting them in body bags and shit.
But it's still about the money though. The reason they wanted to do this, like outside of being cool to be involved in American sports, is they now get access to all the PGA Tour sponsors, who are the biggest companies in the world. So, like, that's the big aspect of this. Now there's business dealings inside.
Like golf today, but people didn't see that, like, Cristiano Ronaldo moved over there last year, is making $250 million a year. Yeah. Karim Benzema just left Real Madrid, is making $200 million a year. They offered Messi $400 million a year to go over there. 400. N'Golo Kante, who plays for Chelsea, $100 million a year is what he's going to get paid to go over there and play fucking soccer. They want to build their country out more modernized, and sports. Say what you will about Kareem Zidane, who writes about all this shit and stuff. I think he gets mixed up in some of it a little much, but it's right. And people that deny that, like, sports and politics are not completely intertwined and has been since we boycotted the Germany Olympics 100 years ago. Like it's all intertwined, man. And it's getting more and more of that. And the Saudis are on the very top of it.
Yep.
It could be so much easier though. They could just like let women drive.
No, why would you
they don't have to do all this shit instead.
I mean, let them go to school and learn how to read and write and shit. I mean, fuck, just that.
That's crazy.
But Sean was so offended about the idea of letting women read and write. He just and I can't blame him. But we can.
Was it the women driving part, Sean? That just couldn't.
I almost fell asleep. My finger hit the back button on the mouse.
The women driving thing was too much. But this was honestly one of the biggest sports stories today that we've had in our lifetime. Just the political stuff with everything else, and just one of the biggest sports in the world completely changing, and literally a government buying an entire sport. I mean, the antitrust stuff aside, which they were fighting it. PGA is fighting antitrust, and then they countered that by dropping the suit and then owning every golf league in the world. One of the weirdest stories you'll ever hear. But we can move on from there. We'll quickly go through the prelims from last week and then spend a little bit of time on the main card before jumping into the pay-per-view, which the pay-per-view is absolute dog shit. So I think we can go pretty quick through some of those. So in the prelims, I'll go through the prelims and then whatever thoughts you guys have overall. But light heavyweight division, Felipe Wins defeated Maxime Grishin 20-28, 20-28, 30-27. Damon Blackshear defeated Luan Lacerda, knockout second round. The fucking sub, hate myself.
Dude, inside the distance was plus 650.
It was plus 1300 for sub, and
I took some sub too because it was so crazy.
Brutal. Women's strawweight, Elise Reed defeated Yin Yu Frey decision. Muhammad Naimov, whatever, defeated Jamie Malarkey, knockout, hilarious. Bantamweight, John Castaneda defeated Gafurov, decision. Dontel Mays knocked out Andrei Arlovsky, loved it, didn't bet on it, loved to see it. And then Bantamweight Daniel Santos defeated Johnny Munoz by decision. Overall, I didn't love the prelims. I thought the Blackshear fight was fun. Malarkey getting knocked out was funny. And then Arlovsky getting knocked out was great. Those are my thoughts. What do you guys got?
I hit a few bets. Lens as a dog, I thought that was kind of crazy. The Blackshear sub, I fucking didn't take nothing on inside the distance. The sub was crazy and ends up knocking Lacerda out.
So sad.
Yeah, Malarkey is like a minus 500 favorite. Like, what are we doing? Like, everybody thought he was going to win, but whatever.
He looked good until he didn't. He looked good until he royally fucked up.
I mean, he was rolling. Yeah, he was good. But did you see him go in on that like weak ass kind of fake takedown and come up with his hands?
No hands.
Down? Dead. I mean, you're just dead at this level. And then I bet an Arlovsky under, and it hit with ease.
Hell yeah!
Like, pretty crazy that an
Arlovsky.
Yeah, Arlovsky under was plus money because I think we mentioned before the books have caught on, and Arlovsky by decision and his overs and shit are like juiced up now and shit. Well, an under was like plus 160 or some
plus
shit.
160 is what I got. Yeah.
Dontel Mays is still like so trash. Terrible. Like he is so bad.
Brad, any commentary here?
I still like the Willie Cat. That was kind of a weird fight, obviously, but
Willie Cat's good.
Dude,
he's good.
That dude's pretty damn good.
I think he's good.
Other than that, I didn't give a shit about any of these prelims.
Yep. Blackshear, though, I like that guy. I do like Blackshear. He's fun to watch. All right, welterweight division. Zaleski dos Santos defeated a shitty Nurmagomedov, split decision. Thought this was close. I had Dos Santos here. I thought he won. I thought it was really thin though. I don't think I would have been shocked if I lost this one.
Consensus winner. We'll take it.
Yeah.
I ended up on him too with plus money. I thought plus money was kind of crazy against the shitty Nurmagomedov here, but I don't know, man. Like if that went the other way, you couldn't have said a word about it.
Nope. Close.
It was one of those ones that was like, I guess if you're scoring control, you can give it to Nurmagomedov, but I don't know what people are scoring. We'll get to it later.
10 seconds to like, why is Twitter devolving into like some dude knows more about fucking scoring now because he read a book or talked to a judge who can't score anyway. I talk to the judges. Well, you know what? They suck. Like, you probably shouldn't be listening to what half of them are saying. It's just, Twitter's just, it's always something. Always something.
Yep. Sean, I'll be right back. You cover the rest. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
You gotta go. Gotta go jerk one.
Yeah, what's
no
I know
kids,
you're home
baby.
alone, man, but Jesus.
Did you guys see that when he walked out? He was only wearing a t-shirt. He's not even wearing pants right now.
4 times in a day, man.
I didn't know if that was one of his forearms or his member. Couldn't tell them apart.
Brad, you can handle the hosting.
Karine Silva, apparently that's person, won by knee bar over Ketlin Souza, who is apparently also a person.
That shit was nasty. That she fucked her knee up bad.
Yeah, the Ketlin didn't look like she necessarily belonged.
Terrible. There. I don't know how good Silva is, but at least she finished this fight, so we don't have to watch for 15 minutes. And she got some nasty finishes.
Tim Elliott, everyone was talking about how he wanted to get a finish because he wanted to get on the mic. Obviously, his lawyer was like, don't get a finish. Don't say anything interesting on the mic because he was classic Tim Elliott. Got cracked good a couple times by Altamirano, but man, can that dude not wrestle even a bit. That was a pretty easy path to victory for Elliott there.
Elliott got hit twice, and he's like, yeah, fuck this. I am not trying to go for a finish. I'm trying to hold this motherfucker down for as long as possible. But as you said, Altamirano's takedown defense is some of the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah, I thought Elliott's line ended up being kind of crazy in hindsight. Like,
he just wasn't doing much on top, though, man. You gotta punch a bit.
Tim Elliott is who he is. Like, we all are like, this dude puts on this crazy pace and he's so wild and stuff. But you know what? He does a lot of nothing, man. Like, he makes fights very, very close, dude. A lot of times, like he's done it for years. It's kind of fun to watch, but yeah,
he's been doing it since back in like the Titan FC days.
Yep. Same dude. Like, has Tim Elliott like evolved at all? Like, it still works, don't get me wrong, he like wins fights with it, but when I guess it goes back to show you, like, if you have a pace and a little bit of cardio, especially at lower weights, man, it could take you a long way. Yep.
Long way.
Jimmy fucking Miller.
Woo.
Mistake by me. Actually, good betting night overall for me because I just stuck to like the 3 or 4 guys that I actually knew on this card and just parlayed them all together. But took the shot on Jimmy Miller sub 1. Should just gone because he's got the knockout power now. He's got the old man strength.
He's got the death touch, man. That was I don't care who it's against. You see Jim Miller putting a guy out like that. That's a good day.
Yeah, we there's been some talk about Gordon getting pulled from that fight, and how was he even given that fight coming off absolute concussion? And of course, Dana's a fucking moron like he is on everything else. Like, you're not a doctor. How do you know? And then like, well, he should have told us he had a concussion weeks ago. Like, dude, he's your fighter. Ain't y'all supposed to
in the building?
Don't you watch these fights?
Yeah. Don't y'all have a doctor on site? Isn't there even the athletic commission has doctors and shit? Like, but the dude they brought in to fight Jim Miller, he shouldn't have been there either. I don't know how he got clear to fight Jim Miller. So Jim Miller has more wins in the UFC than anybody that's ever lived. That's actually pretty incredible. Whatever competition he's fought, however long it's taken him to get there, more wins than anybody that's ever walked inside the UFC cage is it's pretty fucking incredible. Props to him.
Quite the accomplishment, and a lot of them entertaining. Not just
he's never been a boring fighter, win or lose. That dude's
especially recently.
Has he ever been in a boring
Lyme
fight?
Disease, and figuring that out. He's going in there and getting shit done.
The craziest thing about the Jared Gordon part is it wasn't even like a prelim that it was buried where he got put out cold. It was the third fight from the top of an ESPN card, I think. The Pavlovich Blades, I think that
Blades
was
one.
ESPN,
Yep.
I can't remember. But like Dana was right there watching that shit. It happened right in front of his eyes, and he's like, "How did he not tell us he had a concussion?"
When do we get to a point in like fighting in general to where when a guy gets knocked out, it isn't immediately clued in that they're concussed? When you get knocked out, you're concussed. You got a concussion.
Concussion
as you can get. What are we doing?
Gotta love the athletic commissions on the top of their game.
Yeah, the more
ways than one.
They're more let's get paid. How can we keep continuing to get paid by this promotion?
How can we, keep getting to the UFC to put their cards on in our governing body as opposed to some other governing body, especially with them doing all the Apex shit. I'm sure the UFC can put whatever they want on a card. Injured guys, incredibly mismatched fights, whatever, and they're just gonna be like, yeah, sure.
Injured guys with fucking dirty betting shit going on and everything else that they just have no clue about. They're clueless to all of that shit.
Yep. Co-main event ended up being a fun one. Still a shitty co-main event, but Bruce Leroy decision over Daniel Pineda. Lance was in shambles that he didn't get a finish in this one.
Did you bet it? Did you end up betting it?
Me?
Yeah. Him decision? No.
No.
You were talking about it. You were talking about it on.
I said that the smartest bet on that fight was Caceres by decision, but I took Pineda no cards. So push.
There you go.
Take it. Never a
day. I had the under. We needed Pineda to fold or catch one of those subs. Neither happened.
Dude, I played the under too, but my God, the 3 times in the 3rd round that Caceres touched that liver, that man was done. I'll give it to Pineda. Like, maybe to the head, if he gets rocked like that, you might get it. But him to take those 3 body shots.
He fucking didn't swarm him, man.
He didn't enough. There was one time where he did go in, but he ended up kind of getting in too close and they kind of clinched up. Man, those 3 body shots, though, were all 3 liver shots and literally stood Pineda up. And he was like, fucked. I'm like, that's it. He's got him. And nope. Caceres just couldn't get him.
Caceres is still a little bit confused that when he hits people, he hurts them sometimes now.
Yeah.
He's just like, I haven't done this my whole career. What's the fuck's going on?
Caceres has gotten really, really fun too, man. Like, we started betting him a little bit the past couple years, and he's won some fights. He's lost, but still got problems with just ending up in dumb spots on his back. Like, I don't know what it is. He's got great scrambles and shit. Don't get me wrong. He's dangerous off of his back, but man, he just like falls into bad takedowns and shit to where he ends up on his back way too much. And I'm surprised Pineda didn't get in one of those spots and fuck him up. Caceres has just got crazy scrambles and shit on his back. And Pineda's still fun though, man. All these years later, dude, that dude will put on a show.
Yep.
Love it. I mean, all the guys that we're talking about is the most entertaining on this card are the guys that have been around forever. Nobody cares about these. Well, not all of them, but for the most part, it's guys that have been around and you've gotten to know them and see them grow instead of these guys that are in UFC for like 2 or 3 fights and nobody gives a shit and then they're gone and you never hear from them again.
Oh wow, who could have imagined that if you would take some time off between a card and build some fighters up and let people know who they are and shit, and might be more invested. But hey, let's get Creative Fighter 1 against Creative Fighter 2 on the UFC Apex this weekend.
Damn right.
On a 10-10.
Main event. I don't know how much we want to get into like the judging talk because it's like the stupidest conversation you can have.
I think it's been beat to death.
Yeah, this was a close fight. The way that it ended up going to Albazi,
that's the problem.
That's brutal. Giving him that fourth round is just like, I don't know how anyone could be that bad at their job and keep their job. But, decent fight, competitive all the way through. I thought that Albazi took early rounds and old Steve took 3, 4, and 5?
Just 4 and 5.
4 or 5.
Albazi at third.
4 or 5, and then one of the first couple of rounds was split. I don't know. It was all pretty competitive except for 3 and 4, really.
Yeah, I thought that. This was a great fight. I think a lot of us on here knew Albazi was good. I expected KKF to have some better opportunities on the feet and just be better on the feet, and Albazi did pretty good against a pretty high level striker. KKF's takedown defense showed up for the most part, but his striking advantage definitely wasn't as big as I thought it would be. It was a close fight. I think KKF won, but it's close.
I bet Albazi in this spot, and I scored it for France. Which if I'm doing that, there's probably a problem. But what's crazy is I don't think an Albazi card is bad if you give him the first round. Like
first three.
First round was close as hell. That was the toss-up round to me. I scored it for France. And if somebody scored that for Albazi, I have no problem with that. When you score the fourth round for Albazi, that is one of the worst 10-9s ever. Like, seriously, that's one of the worst ever. He got outstruck like 27-5 and got taken down by France in the round.
Had no control. Yeah,
literally, it is as bad as you can get. Like, there was no big moments, but you don't need a big moment to win a round when you outstrike a guy 27-5 and get the only takedown. That
round's an IQ test for the judges, and one guy failed.
And it's one guy that fails consistently, fails over and over and over again. And like, that's what I was talking about earlier with what was on my Twitter timeline today is like, I don't care if you're a MMA blogger and you're going and taking a course, or you're talking to this judge or this ref or whatever. These dudes have been doing this for 25 years through this criteria and newer criteria. They don't know what they're fucking looking at. They don't know how to score. Forget scoring fights. When you can look at a round 4, and I don't care, you don't need a course to look at a round and be like, this dude won that round. Like, it's plainly with your fucking eyesight. He's looking at it and he still didn't score. That's just, there's a few guys.
No criteria.
Watch that. And
I know.
Score it.
There's no criteria over the whole lifespan of this sport that would say that.
Yeah,
Albazi won that round.
And it's like those dudes have gotten all of these years to do this and stuff. And if you're getting stuff like that still wrong, I don't know how these guys keep jobs. Like, I know there's calls for like open scoring or having 5 judges. Guess what? You can change everything you want. If the dude's fucking inept, he's inept. It doesn't matter if he's scoring this way or that way or the other way. If he can't watch that fourth round and scored for the right guy, no criteria is going to change that guy. He's just bad at what he does. So
I know that we've been over this, but what does open scoring do during that fight?
I mean, it tells KKF he's drawing dead, but there's no chance there's probably no chance he's finishing anyway. So
it just gets everybody pissed off after round 4 instead of after the fight.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, it does even worse harm to a guy that is up fucking 2 or 3 rounds.
Because he knows as long as he doesn't get finished, he's
going to run. He's going to take his foot off the gas. It's going to ruin fights.
Baby.
Yep, it's going to ruin fights. Yep.
Anyway, that was last week's card. It happened. Moving on.
It did.
Lance, unless you wanted to talk about the main event or anything else that happened on the main card, I figured.
How'd you score the fight, Lance? You had it for France, right?
Yeah. 145, like everyone else on earth. I know, like close rounds versus robbery.
One was close though, right? Like if you gave him one, you could score the fight for Albazi, but giving him the fourth is just egregious.
It's real bad, and like I understand the robbery. There were some close rounds, things like that. But when a fighter is plus 750 live at the bell, and when you look at MMA decisions or whatever, and like 3 times as many people had 49-46 France, then
fuck all that. Fuck all
that.
that. I bet Albazi and I scored the fight for France.
Yeah.
There, that should show you that was a horrible decision.
It was a really bad decision. I thought
it was bad. I
you
thought
you won the 4th round when he landed 5 punches and got taken down.
That's what sucks and what makes it so bad and makes people talk about it is it was a specific scored round that was so bad. If it would have been 1-3 or 1-2-3 Albazi to 4-5, there wouldn't be as much outrage. I don't think it's how that round was scored. That 4th, there should be outrage. Man should never judge again. That man should never get another fucking assignment. He's judged fights for 25 years.
We've only said that for like, I don't know, 10 years now.
Yeah. All 3 of them were on that too. It was Diamato, Chris Lee, and the other dumb fuck that's been around.
McCarthy?
And then we got fucking Tony Weeks that's got one of the worst stoppages in recent boxing history one week. He's scoring fucking MMA fights across the country the next week and is getting shit cards all over the place. That guy's still a judge, been doing it for 20 years. Fucking Bird, she's been around boxing in MMA, just crushing guys' careers for fucking as long as I can remember. Shit is so bad, man.
It's never gonna change.
Take fucking McCarthy's course though, and you'll know what you're looking at. I guess.
And open scoring does absolutely nothing. That doesn't change the fact that a round was scored completely incorrectly, costing a guy a fight. That open scoring doesn't change that. This whole open scoring, anything Ariel says, I'm just automatically on the other side because he's the biggest fucking nerd I've ever met in my life. Like he's like the nerd who got beat up his whole life, so he wants to be into sports, so picks MMA because it's tough. And the guy's just an absolute pussy. Talks shit.
I get the argument.
He needs to humble that motherfucker. Just like take him out one day. Just like start beating the shit out of him.
He's taking it to another level once he like got fired and shit, and he's on his own now and he can say shit. Like he runs his mouth a little.
I don't get how a guy can be involved in like combat sports and say the things he does. Like, how has he not found that fuck around, find out moment? Like, I feel like if a nerdy motherfucker was talking to me like that and he kept saying this shit, like eventually we're gonna get to the point that I'm gonna physically hurt you. How has that not happened yet? It's crazy. How has he not
Never
found
happened,
out?
and then he made enough money where now he's not big enough.
Well, he's got enough pull and clout now though that he can change your career and shit. So you can't like say shit.
I'm not even talking about fighters.
I get that. Yeah, well, I mean, I hate him for so many reasons outside of MMA. Like the dude's one of the biggest. This dude drives a bandwagon. He drives it and just, I'll pick you up. I'll pick you up here. This team is mine. I like this one.
I hate everything about him.
He's Drake.
Yeah,
hate him. All right, let's move on now to this shitty ass fight card that I'm gonna pay for because Do Bronx, my man. All right, women's strawweight division: Diane Belbiţă versus Maria Oliveira. Just maybe show up 30 minutes late.
Definitely show up 30 minutes late. Combined 2-5 in the UFC. Starting off this pay-per-view card with a banger.
I've never even heard of one of these.
I'll take the cheese. The cheese is a dog.
Cool.
I'll pick the cheese. I guess if you're betting either side of this, just take them by decision, get some plus money. I'll take the cheese. I'm not betting this fight.
Brad.
Pass.
Yeah. Apparently, this Maria Oliveira lady, she's one of the people. Like, I know I've seen her fight 3 times. Just I can't remember a single.
Couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
She doesn't look familiar. I can't pick out a single second of her 3 decisions. Not a single second.
She lost to Vanessa Demopoulos, so
that's not very good. All right.
No.
We move on. Flyweight: David Dvořák, Stephen Erceg. Banger. New shot.
This dude.
I mean, this would have been a pretty decent fight if it stayed together when it was Dvořák versus Schnell. I mean, Schnell pretty much forces fun one way or another. Man, this Erceg guy looks like an absolute dirtbag.
He literally looks like he robbed an old lady for a purse, like straight up.
Just dirt.
What's wrong with his face? Astro Boy?
He looks like Kenny and Keith Florian's brother that got kicked out of the family.
Got on the heroin for a while and shit. Now he's trying to kick it, you know. Yeah.
I don't
It's a redemption story. Dvořák is the much better fighter. He should win, but don't care.
Yeah. Wes?
Yeah, I mean, I actually like Dvořák here. I mean, I don't think this is a bad parlay piece necessarily down at around 3-1 or so. Like, Dvořák's not bad. Like, I think he's going to put a beating on this dude. It's like short notice. He was preparing for Schnell. This guy looks like he's got a bunch of subs against a bunch of bumps. So I guess he wants to try to grapple. I guess it's sort of the close matchup to Schnell. Schnell probably wanted to get the fight to the mat against Dvořák. So not a big change there. And I mean, god damn, the level of competition here is just off a cliff. Like, Dvořák's not bad. I mean, at 3-1 or so, I got a parlay with something here. I just, that seems way short to me.
Fred?
Yeah, this is similar to old Jimmy Miller on last week's card.
That was sweat, though.
They brought some dude in to face him, and he dispatched him the way you thought he would.
Clean, too.
I real clean. I think that Dvořák's going to do the same thing. I mean, even if this egg dude wants to grapple Dvořák. What? His name's like Erceg.
I just don't know what's wrong with his face.
Yeah, even if he wants to grapple, Dvořák's a pretty decent grappler. I mean, I don't see where this is competitive. Like, Schnell versus Dvořák would have been like the third best fight on this card. That's
Schnell sub all day.
Every day.
Every day.
Even when he knocks the guy out, he's going to sub him.
Schnell unders. Yeah, Schnell unders were so back. Just
they were
so back, man.
I mean, is Dvořák unders?
I think he
that
gets
guy's
this
a
done.
pretty. He doesn't.
I think he gets this done inside the distance too. There's just not a lot of props out yet for the fight.
Yeah.
The under was +1. Under 2.5 was +150.
Yeah, that's
which means Dvořák would probably be like +250 inside. But he doesn't finish fights. So
yeah.
Once he kind of went to the UFC, he just stopped being fun. I do like Dvořák here. This Erceg fella, one, his nickname's Astro Boy. Two, I think he suffers from some kind of gene disorder. Like if you look at his face, like I don't know, he's missing something in there. And he's Australian, and regional Australian dudes normally don't pan out very well, especially a guy that's just getting subs in the first round facing absolute losers. Maybe they just, I don't know, Outback Steakhouse guys. I don't know. Not good. So I'll take Dvořák. -275 seems a fair parlay piece. All right, let's move on. Featherweight. Kyle Nelson, Blake Bilder. Dushan.
Kyle Nelson is horrible. He
So
should
bad.
not have a job in the UFC. He is very, very fortunate to somehow steal a majority draw last time out. I don't
He's
think
1-4-1 in the UFC.
I know.
Not good.
That's what it takes.
But he's
Blake
Canadian,
Bilder,
and he's probably like the 7th ranked Canadian.
yeah, definitely. It's high praise. Bilder's not that great, but he's good enough here. I think he can implement wrestling. Nelson hasn't really fought many great grapplers, and some of the decent ones have been able to take him down. Bilder probably gets him down. It's tough to lay over -200 on Blake Bilder, though.
Wes?
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it the same way. I like Bilder here. I think he can get a few takedowns here. I think Kyle Nelson though is really tough. Has has pretty good defense on the feet and on the mat. It's kind of looking at Bilder by decision as like plus 250. I think Kyle Nelson can stay in this for 15 minutes. Bilder's not like a big time finisher or anything, but I do think he can implement some takedowns and work Kyle Nelson over for 15 minutes. I don't think it's a bad parlay piece, but yeah, laying minus 250 on Blake Bilder's probably not a good idea a lot of the time, but that decision at plus 250 is not too bad.
Brad?
Yeah, this one seems pretty accurate to me. Bilder, I mean, didn't look tremendous against Shane Young. You'd like to see a bit more of a gap there in that fight. But he showed pretty decent pace. And one thing about Nelson is that he pretty much always slows down in his fights. So if he doesn't get you out of there early, Bilder's probably going to take over in rounds 2 and 3. If he doesn't win round 1, which he could very well do here as well. So I think Bilder pulls away a little bit later in this one and starts the night off rough for the Canadians.
Yeah, I think Bilder takes this one. I think you guys pointed it out. Nelson slows down. It seems like usually have a couple good moments early on, and then just that's about it. I think that's about it from there. So I think Bilder's going to put the pace on him. He's going to wrestle. He's going to grapple. He's going to keep spamming takedowns, get him on the ground, stay heavy on top, and I think he can. I think he can win a decision here. I don't think he gets a finish, but I think he'll do enough to win a clear decision. Even if he drops the first, I think he can definitely win the next 2. And I think his wrestling is just going to be too much. And I don't know. Kyle Nelson fucking blows. I know it's minus 275, but he's facing a wrestler who's going to wrestle him the whole time, wear him out. So I don't think that's exactly the worst line. I think there's worse spots here. There's some chick fights everywhere, and you got to go fucking hunting.
Yep.
Find some bets on this card. So sometimes when you're hunting, you just fake Kyle Nelson and just move forward. You're going to win all but one time apparently so far in the UFC. All right, let's move on now to what we got. Bantamweight. Zahabi versus Qileng.
Qileng.
Qileng? There's just no way. That's not what it is. It can't be.
Yeah.
All right, new Sean.
Well, these guys are not very good. Zahabi surprised me a bit getting the win against Tercios. I don't think he's that great of a grappler, and usually the guys who have had success against Qileng can get him down. It's probably going to be a striking fight. It's probably going to be close, as the line says. I guess I'll fade the Canadian.
Wes?
Yeah, Ricky Tercios is not a good win. Like that guy is not good. Props to Zahabi for winning that fight, looking decent in the fight, but Tercios is not good. Yeah, I like the old Qileng here myself as well. I think this is probably a stand-up fight. I just think he hits harder. I think he's going to land the bigger stuff in this fight on Zahabi, and I mean, it's a close fight. I think it's probably going to go 15, so going to be close. But I would have liked to reach Qileng a lot more at dog price. I thought he was around there at one point, closer to even money, but it looks like he's taking some money now. So probably not something I want to lay juice on, but he's going to be the pick for me. Maybe a bit.
Brad?
I think Qileng is going to give him the old Ricci round on this one. Not looking good for Zahabi. I don't know. I had to come up with something.
It just didn't make sense. It was a good effort, though.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Sometimes it's more about the flow of the words.
Shoot or
than
shoot.
actually being coherent. Yeah. More dynamic striker. I think he's going to have more volume here. When things start going wrong for Zahabi in fights, he kind of like shuts down. He's that guy that's been kind of protected by his brother his whole career, and even in his UFC matchups, he's gotten some pretty reasonable matchups to somehow be an above 500 fighter in the UFC. I don't think this is that matchup anymore. So he's in there against a guy that's going to throw, going to keep up a high pace, going to be in his face. And Zahabi's probably the slightly more technical guy, but I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference here.
Yeah, I think fading Canada just as a general rule, especially in Canada, probably a good idea. So I'll take a retailing. All right, let's move on. Women's flyweight. Fuck yeah. Miranda Maverick versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. You, Sean? What do you think, Skeppy? Who you got in this one?
We're in for some pain, I think, on Saturday in this one because Go's decision is like minus 300. Maverick by decision's like minus 145, which probably isn't a terrible price considering what her money line is. I'm still gonna pick the dog and Toutmaster because it's grappler versus grappler. This thing could be close. That's a big number.
Wes?
Maverick's gonna win a very boring fight.
Brad?
Yeah, probably that.
That works. All right, let's move on. Middleweight division. Imavov versus Chris Curtis. Good one. Should be on the pay-per-view. You, Sean.
Yeah, easily. This should be a fairly fun fight. I mean, Chris Curtis isn't really into too many boring fights, save for the Jacker Manson one, maybe. Imavov usually has a bit more success with his striking when he can kind of implement his grappling. I think that's going to be tough to do. We've seen Chris Curtis' takedown defense be very, very good. Imavov doesn't throw a crazy amount of volume, so I don't think he's going to be able to do the Jack Hermanson thing where just a stick and move. I don't know if he's that disciplined, and I would hope that Chris Curtis kind of learned from that fight. And then he trains with Strickland, who fought Imavov and just beat him. There's got to be a little bit of decent help there, so I'll be playing Chris Curtis small.
Wes?
Look, I'm not running out to lay juice on Imavov here. I know the boys on the show like Curtis here. I'm just playing a little devil's advocate. I think it's it's a close fight. I just think Curtis gives guys opportunities to land stuff. He's very aggressive. I know he's got some decent boxing, but he doesn't have the boxing of Strickland. Strickland is a way better boxer than Chris Curtis is. We saw Hermanson. We saw him make Gastelum look like fucking prime Roy Jones on him, just boxing his face up. Curtis did get his against Gas, no doubt. I just think Imavov is going to have opportunities to land here, and some might not agree, but Imavov lands hard. He's got big strikes when he can land. I just think Curtis is going to give him opportunities to land. Now, no, Curtis could stay in there. Like, dude's chin is insane. He's probably going to have more volume. I'm not sure he's going to have the harder strikes, but it's a close fight. I don't blame anybody for taking a little dog shot on Curtis here. I have a problem getting Curtis fights right for some reason, so this is probably just one I'm going to stay away from since the guy I favor is up around minus 150 at this point. So close fight. I'm going to pick Imavov, but no bet for me.
Brad?
The way I approach every Chris Curtis fight is basically the same. Can he take Chris Curtis down? No. And then it turns into, does his striking style match up well with Chris Curtis? And I don't think it does in this spot. He might land, and as Wes said, probably hits a little bit harder definitely than I'm going to give him credit for, because he's some fraud French Russian.
He does have 0 knockdowns in 6 or 7 fights, by the way, in the UFC.
Yeah, there you go.
That doesn't seem like a lot.
Is he one of those standing TKO dudes? Or did he have a TKO on the ground? I remember him getting a TKO somehow. The Heinisch
elbows and punches. That was from grappling.
Yeah, that doesn't count. That's not going to happen in this fight. And he's not a big kicker or anything like that. Doesn't have even though he's way taller than Chris Curtis, doesn't have a big reach advantage here. So I think this is going to be Chris Curtis moving forward, getting in the pocket and landing combinations on this dude, going to the body. So the sketchiest part about Chris Curtis's fights is, our judges actually going to count him landing to a dude's body, as he's probably taken some shots to the head, a lot of shots that he's probably rolling off of as well. So they're not really hitting him that hard. But, you're kind of trusting judges there. I just think that over time, his style is really going to wear on Imavov in this fight. And he's going to turn it up a lot like he did against Gastelum before he got headbutted and ended up losing the round because of that. So I like Chris Curtis in this fight. I'm definitely going to take a shot on him. I'm seeing plus 132 out there at the old Mason book. So I think that's going to be my play here.
Yeah, I like Chris Curtis here. I think if this fight stays in the feet, which I think Curtis can keep this on the feet. If he does get taken down, I think he can get up here. I don't think Imavov's the kind of guy that's going to be able to hold him down. I think it's a striking match, and I think Curtis has a power advantage, I would say, for sure. And I think he's got a chin advantage. Now, will he throw enough to make it count? I hope so. You never really know with Chris Curtis, but I think if this is going to be a striking match, I like Curtis's power. I like his grit. I like him getting inside, throwing some kicks, working the body. I think Curtis does a lot of good things here. And, looking at Imavov, I think we overhyped him a little bit. When I say we, I obviously don't mean me because he's Russian. But I think obviously other people, if you look at his wins, they look pretty fucking terrible for the most part when you look back versus some of the guys Chris Curtis has faced. Jordan Williams.
Insolent kid. Ian Heinisch, who at that point I think everyone thought was good. Like he came out looking good. He lost 4 or 5. Edmund Shabazian. Obviously, 2 years ago everyone thought Shabazian was going to be a lot better than he was. He looked good. He ended up not being that great. And then you got Buckley, who dropped down a weight class and he's not the most talented guy. So I think he's actually had really favorable matchups he's won, and the fights he's lost are to Strickland and Hawes, who, I would say like from power wise and like Hawes kind of similar to Chris Curtis and like jumping the right hands and throwing some body work and some kicks and stuff like that. And I don't know. I think Imavov's a little hyped up here. So I do like Chris Curtis, and that'll be the Munich bet of the week. Munich
1,762 and 7.
Yeah, we got a couple of those disputed ones overturned.
Yeah, we're working on the rest. If we would have picked France, that would have came out. All right, middleweight division. We'll start jumping through this now. Middleweight, Andre Barriault versus Eric Anders. Your boy, New Sean.
Yeah. If Barriault doesn't get murdered in the first, 30 seconds, and if he can, yeah, exactly, which he doesn't really do, and if he can stuff some takedowns, then I think his volume it's just going to add up, and he's going to end up running over Eric Anders. His takedown defense is bad. Anders has been, mixing in some takedowns here and there, so that is going to be the big test, but I think if he can survive that, he probably takes over late and probably gets him out of there, because when he does survive, he starts throwing, and if you are tiring of it, it's going to be bad news for you. So Barriault inside is like plus 275. That's not bad, but him in like round 3 is like plus 1,000 at Bet Online. It'll probably be bigger once it comes out at Bet 365. I don't hate those.
Well,
man, yeah, this Anders, you can search my tweets. I think me and our boy Maddie has gone back and forth with Anders for like 5 years now. I'm so off with this guy every time. Look, the way he's looked lately, he could take Barriault down and start smashing. Like that could absolutely happen in this fight. I think Sean's absolutely right. If Barriault gets out of the first round and a half, he should probably start taking over on Anders. But man, I don't know, man. I don't know with Anders anymore. So sometimes he looks like a fucking All-American linebacker and just trucks somebody over and gets on top of him and starts beating the shit out of him. So what I was kind of looking at here is the under as plus money. I think it is probably Anders a little early, getting a takedown and smashing Barriault, or Barriault survives that and man, if he does like survive early stuff like we saw it in this last fight, man, the dude does have a gas tank and can take a little bit of a beating, and he starts putting it on a guy. So I could see a later finish for Barry on this fight. Fight inside is around even money. Those extra 2.5 minutes might mean something in this one. Like I think those last couple minutes in the third round could mean something. So that might be the way to go for me. I'm gonna pick Anders. Just what I've seen lately, if he does what he has done lately, I think he could take Barriault down and smash on him. But I can't touch this guy with a bet.
Right.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. Before I get into the breakdown, there's only one ya boy, and it's Yao, the dude from back in the day. Yao's your queen, Yao's your boy. All right? None of this Eric, your boy Anders shit. I get that out of here. As
he's
for this
your boy,
fight,
though. He's your boy. Like, what do you?
Not my boy.
That's racist.
I honestly have no clue in this fight. I could see this be 15 minutes of these dudes just in the clinch, swapping which dude is on the fence, and nothing really happening. I could see it being, like you guys said, where Anders comes out like a house on fire, and then fades later in the fights. Like I do not have a good read on this one. I guess I slightly lean Barriault, but man, I'm just staying away.
Yeah, my breakdown's almost identical to Wes's. Kind of how I looked at this fight. I think from Anders' last fight, with Dawkins, he came out hot. He looked better, and I think
threw strikes. That's a big. He actually threw.
he was much more aggressive right from the get go, and it worked for him. And he pulled an upset at that point. And I think that's hopefully he's later in his career now, right? He's 36, had a bunch of UFC fights, and I think hopefully he's in fuck it mode. So
he said he's got 5 left on his contract, and he's retiring.
Yeah, so I mean, I think he's going to be in fuck it mode right now, and kind of be fun. And Barriault, especially early on, like it just seems like it takes him a minute to kind of get into it, and that dude is hittable as fuck in that first round. Like everyone seems to get with him, and Anders has big fucking power. Like he's not the most technical guy, he's not the best fighter you'll ever see, but he's got big power. And I think even though Anders hasn't been finished a lot, I think Barriault just gets these kind of mercy finishes, late second, early third, where he just puts so much pace, and Anders doesn't have the best gas tank. And if he's coming out aggressive, coming out trying to get that finish early, doesn't get it. Barriault does a really good job of looking for that finish with volume, because he's not a big power guy, but he just throws until the ref goes, all right, I'm done with this shit. And, plus money on the doesn't go, I think here is definitely worth a stab. So that's where I'll be as well. All right. Dan Ige versus Nate Landwehr. Hey, John.
I kind of went back and forth on this fight. At first look, I was like, does Landwehr got a shot? I've bet on him a lot to some varying degrees. I think I was on both those knee knockouts, so that wasn't great, but got a couple of his wins as well. I ended up I think Ige is just the better guy, the sharper striker. Now, Nate Landwehr is a shit-eating wild man, so weird stuff happens in his fight, so it's a bit of chaos. He can be hit at times, but the dude, unless you put him flat out, he's still gonna give her. I don't know how many brain cells he has left, but I was kind of looking at Ige. I was kind of looking at Ige by decision. It's like plus 250. Ige, I know he's knocked out a couple of guys recently, but there's been a ton of decisions. Landwehr can be hit, but he also is pretty gritty. So I was kind of looking at Ige by decision, plus 250.
Wes?
I think Ige is about to style on this motherfucker, and yeah, he's a wild man. That's going to be fucking great for Dan Ige, who is as technical a striker at this weight class as you could imagine. I think he's going to box Landwehr's head off. Ige's chin, legendary at this point. Takedown defense, insane. Landwehr's not going to consistently get Ige to the mat. I think the line's kind of low. Maybe I'll get fucking completely fucked by Landwehr one more time because the dude has pulled off some fights, but look who he's pulling these wins off against, man. Like, Ige is upper level talent that Landwehr has even come close to. The kind of competition that Ige's fought over the past 5 years is absolutely insane. I mean, Landwehr's like 34 now. Shit, like, why are people running around acting like this guy's like young and coming up and getting some wins? Now he's 34 years old. Like, this dude's old, man. I like Ige a lot in this spot. Maybe I'm proven wrong by Landwehr, but man, at minus 250, 240, that's kind of wild to me, man. So I like Ige a lot. He's already in multiple parlays for me.
Brad?
Feels about right to me. I think that Landwehr is going to drag him into a fight. Ige can't really wrestle. So Landwehr is going to come forward. Ige is going to land on him. Landwehr is going to keep coming forward. Ige is probably going to keep landing on him. And at some point, Landwehr is just going to throw enough that he's going to start landing stuff. And I just don't think it's going to be quite enough for him. Ige's clean enough that he's going to land some sharp shots. Maybe he's been watching the old tape and he learns that if you throw a knee up the middle, you're going to knock Nate Landwehr out. Ige's pretty short. I'm not sure if he can get his knee up high enough to do that. But yeah, he's going to be in a fight. He's going to know that he's in a fight in this one, but I'm pretty sure that he's going to pull it off.
Yeah, I like Ige in this one. I think this is a technical striker versus the wild man, which the wild man doesn't have like big power. Like Nate Landwehr doesn't have this massive power. He just wears on dudes. He brings it to him and wears on him. And I think Ige, unless Landwehr can get some takedowns and actually do damage on top, I think he's just going to roll to the hurt here. I think he's going to be a little too wild. I think he's going to get countered to death. His wrestling is not very good unless he tires guys out and wears them down and gets the takedown. I just don't see that happening here. I think when both guys are fresh and if Ige is not gassed, I don't see him getting easy takedowns. And I think Ige's cardio will hold up fine. I just think his takedown defense will hold up fine. And I think he just boxes his face off. I don't think it's finished. Landwehr is too stupid to get finished. But I think Ige as a parlay piece is more than okay. All right. Welterweight, Mike Malott, Adam Fugitt. Nougat. Newshawn.
This is a third
Big
from
Newton.
the top fight on a pay-per-view.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I don't
Pretty
care.
good.
Are they trying to push Mike Malott to be this Canadian
Seems like it.
guy?
Seems
Seems
like
that
it.
way.
He's the number 4th ranked Canadian in the world.
I know he's getting up there. I don't know if he's that good. I don't think Adam Fugitt is that good either. So this is
Adam
pretty
Fuggett's
low level shit for a pay per view in my opinion. I'll pick the not Canadian guy.
Wes?
Malott is not good. I don't get the push here. I guess the line's about right though. Like he should be favored. He's probably a little better than old Fugitt, but man, I'm picking Fugitt and Talmaster. Like there's no way I want anything to do with Mike Malott as a minus 200 favorite. Not gonna bet Fugitt. I'm staying away from this fight, but Malott is horrible. Do not lay minus 200 on Mike Malott, please. Just don't do that.
Brad?
Yep. Third from the top on a pay-per-view, and we've got a guy that's 1-1 in the UFC against a guy who's 2-0 in the UFC. One of those was over
Mickey Gall. Yeah.
So he's like 1.5-0 in the UFC. Yeah, I just like this is a dog shit fight for being the third highest fight on the card. I don't think this deserves anybody's time or to be in this spot on the card. Usually in this spot, if the UFC wants a guy to win, they're pretty good at matching him up well to make him win. So I guess maybe they see something in Fugitt that Malott can exploit. I don't know that I do. I haven't seen enough of either of these guys to really have a great feel for this fight. So nothing for me here. Might be a double dog walk main card on this one.
Third from the top of a pay-per-view, and we're talking about dog walks.
I think this will be it doesn't mean anything, but I think it'll be a fun enough fight. I mean, Malott's finished every win he's had, and Fugitt has been knocked out in all his losses. I think it'll at least be fun. And I think to Brad's point, the UFC is pushing Malott here, and Malott, whatever his stupid Canadian name is.
Or did they just not have anything for this card? So they're like, hey, this dude's Canadian. He looks okay. And he's like,
but if that was true, they put Chris Curtis Imavov on the main card.
Well, he's not Canadian, though. Like, they're just trying to throw a Canadian up on the main card. I mean,
I don't know. Malott's looked okay in his fights. Fugitt's been knocked out twice. Malott's won every fight inside the distance. I haven't seen it come out across the board, but I think on some of the offshore books, they had Malott inside the distance like minus 125 or so. And I think he more than likely gets a finish here if he wins, so you don't have to weigh the minus 200. So depending on where that opens, I don't think that's the worst play. Fugitt sucks. We know he sucks. We've seen him. He's not good. And I think Mike Malott is at least a finisher. And he's beaten up guys that are similar to Fugitt. Like, is he really that much worse than Mickey Gall and these other guys he's fought? No. So I think, if it's minus 120, minus 130, some of that range, it might be worth a stab here on the inside the distance on Malott. All right. Main event. Charles Do Bronx Oliveira takes on Beneil Dariush. New shot.
Should be fun. It'll be interesting to see what Dariush's game plan is, because I don't think he has good enough wrestling to take down Do Bronx. And even if he does, I don't know if that's a great idea. I know Dariush is a very accomplished grappler, but the guys that Dariush has been able to out wrestle do not have good wrestling. Do Bronx has good wrestling. So
he's a D1 All-American in my mind.
I think Do Bronx dictates where this fight happens, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. And I like Do Bronx there. Like, I know Dariush's striking is come a ways, but it's still not amazing. Do Bronx is very, very good. He's got to keep that chin checked or tucked in, and I think he'll have a good night. I don't know whether he knocks him out or submits him. I would tend to think that he's probably going to knock him out on the feet, but you never know with Do Bronx. He likes to surprise us. So the bet's going to be Do Bronx. It's going to be back to glory.
Wes?
Yeah, I think Do Bronx has an advantage wherever this fight plays out. I just think he's got the much better power on the feet at this point. Like, Do Bronx hits fucking hard now. I think his striking is slightly better than Dariush. Just don't think Dariush has like finishing power to where Do Bronx does. And like MMA grappling, like Dariush is an accomplished grappler. MMA grappling, this isn't close. Like, Do Bronx is the far superior MMA grappler, especially when it comes to finishing fights. So I just think Dariush is in danger wherever this fight is. How can you not like Do Bronx at dog money again? Whether you kind of lean Dariush in this fight, like getting the plus money on a former champion who is dangerous wherever this fight is kind of incredible. Do Bronx inside the distance is plus 170. I think that's a pretty good bet. I'm probably going to split it between inside the distance and take a little money line as well. And I think Do Bronx is in line to get another shot at that belt.
Islam will just retire before that happens. We all know he was sick or something. Whatever. Brad?
Yeah, we've been here before. Like
a lot.
How do we keep doing this? How is Do Bronx once again a decent underdog? Like Benny's a good fighter. He's a good fighter.
Yeah, he's decent.
Been around for a while.
I'll say this: he's the worst guy Do Bronx has fought since before COVID.
Yep.
Yeah. Completely agree. Had a nice performance against Gamrot, but that was very out of character for him. Didn't attempt a single takedown in that fight. Managed to beat Gamrot on the back of his striking and being able to defend takedowns really well and scramble and get back to his feet or get some positions where he needed them. I don't think much of any of that is in play against Do Bronx. I think that Benny's going to have to come out, and his best bet in this fight is to wrestle and get on top of Do Bronx and hope that he can hang around in his guard and ride out rounds. Don't think he's doing much in terms of damage or anything there. Because on the feet, this is a mismatch. I know you have to go back several years because it's been a long time since Dariush has fought any sort of dangerous strikers, but knocked out by Alexander Hernandez, knocked out by Edson Barbosa, knocked out by Ramsey Nijum. Like, this is not
we used to talk about his chin, right? Like we used to
call him like still there. Well, there just hasn't been anybody.
Yeah, we used to talk about it a lot. Like he's chinny. That's why I'll never win a title. He's so chinny.
Yeah.
I mean, Dober's the only guy he's faced with real power over the last
and Dober can't
5
wrestle.
years, and he just and Dober he can't wrestle like at all. So
so I think that it's kind of back to old Benny in this one. He might try to wrestle a little bit. I think that Do Bronx's wrestling has improved to the point where he can stop those takedowns. He punishes guys when they go for takedowns and they don't get them against him. When they lock up in the clinch, he's ripping shots to the body.
Knees. Yep. Knees to the body. Yep.
Brutal in there against Do Bronx. And I think he's going to knock Benny out. I don't even think he's going to bother having to go for a submission after that. I know that Lance has Do Bronx sub-1 in there, but I think it's Do Bronx KO time in this one.
Question.
Like plus 125, plus 130 on the money line, and then another 50 cents on top of that for inside against the guy that usually gets finished when he loses. Whew. I like some of that.
Does Do Bronx hurt him and go for the sub though?
That's very possible.
He always does it. Even when he rocks guys, he'll just jump on a neck
unless they're real hurt. And this line is interesting to me. And just like looking at people on Twitter and it's like we forgot the last 4 years. I think when you look at the run this man was on, it's one of the most impressive runs in UFC history. It was 4 straight guys inside the top 5. One of them completely dismantled and basically removed from the game in Tony Ferguson. Then he finishes 3 of the most dangerous guys in the entire UFC. He finished all of them, and he was an underdog, I think, in all of those fights. He's always an underdog. And in some ways I understood him being an underdog. Like, I'm obviously biased. Like in Ferguson fight, this is before Tony was like completely Washington Redskins. Michael Chandler has that massive KO power. It was for the belt. How is Do Bronx going to deal with that? Poirier's Poirier. Everyone knows about Poirier. He's just a great fighter, and everyone loves Poirier. Justin Gaethje, most violent dude in the UFC, dangerous, can finish, big power. Do Bronx has been knocked out a lot. And then I look at this fight. I could be wrong. I don't see the clear path. I think in all those fights he was underdog. I think everyone saw a clear path to victory. I don't know what that path is here for Dariush, because Dariush striking, sure. I guess you could say his striking's involved. I don't know if it has evolved. I don't know if it's any better. I think he caught some guys. He throws these wide looping shots when he lands. And a striker like Do Bronx, who is very compact, who rarely throws wide strikes, he's going to eat at that. He's going to throw shots up the middle. He's going to throw technical strikes. And if this fight does go to the ground, and I do think that is that's going to be, whether it's his game plan or not, it's going to be his game plan after a couple minutes. Because if Do Bronx starts, striking at range, or God forbid for Dariush's health, if Do Bronx gets that clinch where he's one of the most devastating clinch guys to the body you'll see with his knees. I think it's Dariush trying to get on top and just kind of pointing out rounds. It doesn't work with Do Bronx because most guys can't get effective strikes off on Do Bronx from the top, at least early on, because he's so dangerous with his guard. And I don't know. I think Do Bronx also can keep this fight standing. He's a much better wrestler. He's a much better striker. He's the better finisher. I just don't understand this line. He's younger. Like there's nothing that points me towards Dariush being a favorite. It's like we watched that Islam fight and Do Bronx looked off from the bell that night. Like he got dominated, but he looked off instantly in that fight.
Even when he got taken down in that fight, Mac and Cheese didn't do anything to him on top. It wasn't until he actually rocked him on the feet that he could do anything to Do Bronx on the ground.
But Do Bronx just looked off that fight. He looked off from the bell with his striking, with everything. I don't know if it was, I don't know what it was, but Dariush is not that. He's not that guy. Like he's just not. Like I can't see Dariush doing that. I think Do Bronx is just too technical of a striker, and Islam's not the best striker ever, but he's more of a tight type of striker versus Dariush's wide strikes. And I just think Do Bronx is better everywhere. And we're getting him at an underdog, and I think he's hungry. He's a hungry fighter right now. I think he's embarrassed by his performance. I think he wants another shot. They've said, I believe, that the winner of this fight gets another title shot. I don't know who else there would be outside of this, and I think it's all Do Bronx. I think he hurts him on the feet. I think Dariush shoots a takedown, and I think Do Bronx gets his guillotine. When he hurts guys, the reason he gets so many finishes too, he hurts guys in the feet.
He rocks them.
Yeah,
he rocks them on the feet and then gets on top, and that's just his MO. Or if a guy shoots a sloppy shot, like the Quake Guida fights like that, where guys will get hurt and shoot on just instinct. And a guy like Dariush, who's a wrestler first, a sub guy first, he's going to get hurt. His instinct's going to be to shoot. When you shoot a hurt, lazy shot on Do Bronx, you're getting choked out, and I think that's going to be the outcome. And I don't think we're going to see a second round.
I'll tell you what, the videos of Do Bronx the past couple of weeks, there ain't no riding horses or walking with lions and shit. Mm-mm. That dude is in shape, bro. Like he looks absolutely ripped. He is ready for this fight.
I think he's going to absolutely. I think people are going to remember.
I do too.
Remember Do Bronx, and like the run he went on, and people just seem to forget about it. And like you see all the highlights popping up from his last few fights, and those last three fights to me are like probably my three favorite moments in UFC history. And I know I'm biased and I love Do Bronx, but they were all big fucking moments against fights he was supposed to lose even as the champ. And I just think we're going to see I think we're going to see the Do Bronx before Islam in this fight, and I think it's going to be ugly, and people are going to look pretty stupid.
We got Glover and Do Bronx like in the same time frame.
Yeah, that Glover one was special.
That whole like small little time frame is one of my favorite kind of areas of moments and watching fights for 30 fucking years, man.
Do Bronx finishing Chandler that was probably my second favorite sports moment of my lifetime. Like it was just the whole thing. Like I went to like a dark place in that first round, dark place. And then, I worked my way up there, and that finished second round. It was just It was just amazing. Like the finish, the comeback, like 2005 White Sox World Series was number one.
Yeah.
Obviously. It's been a long time. A long time since the White Sox are there. But anyway. Consensus bet of the week, obviously. Charles Oliveira. And hopefully he shows a little bit better. I do think if he wins this fight, I don't think that first Islam fight was Do Bronx. I think he'd come in with a better game plan, better into the fight, and I think he can give him a shot. So, all right, let's now move on to the post-limb.
Shit.
Yeah, Irene Aldana versus Amanda Nunes.
Post-limb.
Post-limb. Yep.
Do Bronx was a small favorite in the Chandler and Gaethje fight. So
was he? Like,
yeah, we didn't get
inside
plus money on
the
those.
inside
But
the
inside the
distance.
distance
inside on both those.
plus
Yeah.
money.
in the Chandler
Obviously.
fight, but he was a favorite in the Gaethje fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Nunes takes her down and smashes her on the ground. Looks like I should have taken inside the distance when I was looking at it. It was like -110 at open. Now it's up to -150. Might have to shop around, see if I can get a cheaper price. But this is going to be all Nunes on the ground, smashing.
Yeah, one, I'll actually be kind of surprised if Aldana even makes weight. Like I was reading something. I don't think she's made this weight in like 4 or 5 years.
Actually.
Yeah, she's like
It's always 46 or
Yeah,
sorry, 36, 35.
yeah, she's. I think I'm with Sean. It's probably takedown and smash here. Nunes inside the distance is creeping up, but that's still very, very playable. I got Nunes with Ige at slight juice in one of my Ige parlays, and I like Nunes inside the distance. It's a good price. I'm not sure how many times we see Nunes at that kind of price if we ever see her too many more times again, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Brad?
I really didn't want to have an opinion on this fight because it's just embarrassing that this is happening after Do Bronx. It's a slap in the face to anyone that likes MMA. But then I saw the line, and the fact that Nunes is -300, like just over -300, to a chick who was losing. She was on her way to losing to Macy Chiasson
Yep.
in her last fight.
On her back getting smashed most of the fight. Like, what is Nunes gonna do to this chick? Holy fuck.
Yeah, this is a bad line. I don't know if people think that it was like skill that she up kicked her to the liver and like
Trained
her
it.
way. Like that is one of the most fluky outcomes that you'll see in MMA. That was not, she wasn't like, I'm trying to kick her in the liver. She was just flailing her legs, and one of them happened to hit her. They say there's no fluky strikes in MMA. If you throw it, you intend for it to land. That was a fluky strike.
Yeah, she wasn't intended for no fucking up kick liver shot. No.
No, like she's gonna get smashed on the ground in this fight. I'll probably do like Nunes, Dvořák, maybe throw something else in there to get it to plus money, but I don't know what that's sitting at right now. But that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, I like Nunes here. I think the line's weird. I'm so over like women's bantamweight. It's so awful. Like
why stop there? Why stop?
Can't get. Well, yeah. I mean, it's all bad, but women's bantamweight is like especially bad. Like
it's not just you. Here's the update on the numbers. I am on the UFC
the countdown
YouTube
show
page right now.
That's wild.
So
that was really
live numbers. Here we go.
The Do Bronx Dariush countdown, 464,000 views 2 days ago. The full episode countdown, 429,000 views.
Less.
So there's fewer people that watch that one. And the Nunes Aldana countdown, 61,000.
more than I thought.
On the 8th? On the 8th.
And that's the main event.
Main event.
I don't get why they keep putting this on pay-per-view. Like,
you're welcome, Canada.
Like she doesn't draw. Like, put Nunes Aldana as a main event.
ESPN.
Like,
Call Do Bronx and Dariush a title eliminator. You can make it 5 rounds main event, and you could keep Nunes. And you could keep Nunes as a co-main and have a title fight co-main. Like, that's what they should have done.
And it's going to be such a letdown. Like, you get a Do Bronx fight followed by an Irene Aldana fight. Like, it's not good. But I'll be betting on Nunes here just so I have some rooting interest. And I think the line's off. I mean, Aldana's not good. She's the 5th ranked.
That shit should be
bantamweight.
minus 1,000. Like that should legit be minus 1,000.
It's not a good line here. So yeah, I'll have Nunes parlayed with someone, but that'll do it for this week's show. I appreciate everyone hanging with us, and hopefully it was entertaining, more entertaining than I think a lot of this card will be, but I will be watching it. I'm playing golf in the morning. So I'll be here, and we'll be back next week for UFC and ESPN Victoria. There's actually some smoking fights on that. So we'll be back next week to talk about that.